Hey everybody, this is Graham here at therecordingrevolution.com, and today I want to look at a huge issue with guitars in mixing, and that's getting clarity and width in guitars. We all want to, in essence, hear every single guitar. We want to be able to pinpoint each instrument in the mix. We want it to sound huge and wide, but what happens is you track a bunch of guitars or you're given a bunch of guitars to mix, and there may be a million different parts, but everything can sort of wash and blend together into a vague, mushy mix. I got a great example here today where the two guitars in question, I'm just going to show two for the sake of simplicity, they already sound similar because they're the exact same guitar. Both of these parts here were played by the same type of guitar, a Les Paul, through the exact same amp, a Vox AC15, with the exact same pedal board, by the exact same player. So what you get is two identical guitar sounds, albeit playing different parts. Take a listen to them right now. Now it sounds fine, but two things. One, you're just hearing these two guitars by themselves. You're not hearing the entire mix, and things can get mushy the more things you add. And two, it's not in mono. And we can get tricked when we listen to things in headphones or in front of a nice pair of speakers. You can hear the width. When I pop this bad boy into mono, listen to what happens to the clarity and the width we thought we had. Obviously the width because it's going to be mono, but listen to the clarity disappear. It gets really fuzzy and you can't really distinguish each guitar from itself. Now, most people don't listen to tracks in a dedicated mono environment. They don't intentionally listen to things in mono. But you have to know that this is going to do two things. Reveal that there's not a good EQ balance between these guitars. That could have been addressed by picking a different guitar to play the second part, or throwing the same guitar to a different pickup. Maybe choose the neck pickup the second time around versus the bridge pickup. Maybe dial in some different tones on the amp or use a different amp. That was not the case. These two things sound mushy, and what we want to do is, by looking at it in mono, it reveals when these things overlap, meaning when that person's not listening to this mix in headphones, or they're not sitting perfectly in front of a set of speakers, meaning they're in their car, or they're walking around their kitchen while it's blaring on their stereo, or they step outside the room for a second, your stereo field collapses, so that basically you have a mono mix, and then you get all the mushiness back. So you don't want to fool yourself just by panning it. You want to pan it, but then you want to EQ, and what I want to show you is how to carve some complementary EQ on your guitars really quickly. It's a simple trick that can give you some subtle clarity and width. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work on one guitar at a time, and I'm going to pull up an EQ. I'll show you a real simple example here. And what I want to do is solo this one guitar and play around with the EQ and find a frequency that sounds pleasing on this guitar. I'm going to exaggerate it at first, find something that sounds like a nice tone to bring out. I'm going to give it a little bit of a boost, so let's listen. That's kind of a cool frequency. Let's pull that back down to, just under 6. It brought some more nice mid-range to it, so it's a little less thin. Then what I want to do is kind of find another frequency that I want to get rid of, maybe a more problematic frequency. So let's boost another one here. All right, so I've boosted around 650 and I've cut around 2.4. Each one is just around 5 dB of boosting and cutting, basically. The frequencies here is not what matters, so don't pay attention to that. Just kind of see what we're doing here. I'll bypass it so you can hear the difference. Okay, and these are a little bit louder boost and cuts, but so you hear the difference. What have I done so far? Nothing really. I've just been playing around with a couple of frequencies here on guitar 1. But what I want to do is do the complete opposite to that on guitar 2. So I'm going to literally copy, Option or Alt drag this over in Pro Tools, this exact same settings and the exact same EQ over to now our second guitar. Instead now, what I'm going to do is reverse the boost and the cut. So instead of having a boost at 652, I'm going to cut this down the same amount of dB at 652. And then you've guessed it, I'm going to boost at 2.4 instead of cutting. So listen to this guitar as it was and then with the EQ we did to it. All right, so by itself it's a little different, and the other one by itself is a little different. But listen to them now together and see what's going on here. See how much more clarity we have, even in mono, even when they're overlapped? Let me press play. I'm going to bypass both EQs, so you'll hear what we did, and then you'll hear kind of the mushiness come back. Total difference. I know it may be subtle to some people, and it depends on what speakers you're listening to this on, but do you hear how those two guitars could then be pinpointed in the mono mix, which is incredible. That means that you're getting some separation by using EQ, and we've been doing this in mono the whole time, but when you pop it back out to stereo, you get rid of that mono filter that you've got on there. Now the width is really, you can't actually hear it getting wider, but what you're going to notice is that when I brought in the EQ in the left and the right, the guitars, they take on their own unique characteristic. They start to sound different from each other, and what that does is that creates width in a mix. That's why it's helpful to pan, different instruments across from each other. They kind of play off each other and then create a sense of space, as opposed to having the same instruments left and right the whole time. You just get a wash. So by doing some simple complementary EQ, let me keep this one up here, bring up the other one. And you can see they're the complete flip-flop of each other. You take two guitars that have identical tonalities and give them the separation that they need so that they can have their own place in the mix. Again, it would be more ideal to do this from the start by picking a totally different guitar and a totally different amp, or one of the other being swapped out so you've got two different types of sounds playing. But when you're stuck with the same guitar and amp combo in your home studio, this is a way to kind of get some separation when it comes time to mix. So try it out next time. Hope that helps you guys. Again, this is Graham at therecordingrevolution.com. We'll see you on another video.